So my understanding is that is the largest, the chiefest reason for divorce, money problems, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
I can agree with that from what I've seen with people I know, not in my own marriage,
Sure.
still happily married after 14 years. But yeah, money.
5 children. 5 children.
That's right. That's the long Wyoming winters. That has nothing to do with happily married.
No money problems there, of course. No, of course not. Of course not.
Well, once you have one boy and one girl, you can just keep on rotating all the clothes and all that stuff. It's really not expensive at all to have that many kids.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
I already told them they're putting their own way through college.
I was
We're
going
not
to say,
doing
where do
that.
you hit those serial college
We're not paying for their
tuitions?
college. We already told them they better get good
well,
grades.
okay.
Yep.
Boy, I wish you could have told me that 15 years ago.
Well, so our thing that we're planning on doing for college, which we'll eventually get to the show topic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But this is all to my husband's credit. But whatever financial ability we have, we will reimburse them upon graduation. So they have to find a way to put themselves through college, work, scholarships, loans, and then when they graduate college, we will reimburse them whatever amount we're able to, and they can use it to either pay off those loans, put a down payment on a house, but obviously they've shown that they're responsible and focused enough to get themselves through college, so giving them that quote-unquote reimbursement. That's what our plan is. So
I
now
see.
keep in mind my
Where were
oldest is
you?
12.
Where were you 20 years ago?
I'm telling you, that's my husband. Once
Is
again,
it?
that's my
Oh, good for
husband's
him.
idea,
Good for him.
not mine. But
Me and the federal loan board are down about $100,000. I think. So,
well, he's still paying off that degree I got that's been gathering dust for 10 years.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that might have something to do with it. Welcome, listeners, to
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Prairie Wife in Heels
Yeah.
half hour, I guess. I don't know what we don't have an official name for it, but
We're going till noon today. I don't know if they told you that. Or not.
oh, I better go run get my water bottle then and a little granola bar.
Frank, we want you, Frank, to watch the Heels hotline. Okay, Frank?
Okay, I got it.
It's 265-0000 if you have any suggestions for us. The Heels hotline. Watch it, Frank. When it lights up, just
And he's
yell.
just the heel to watch it.
Yeah.
So.
The 265-0000.
Or the seal.
All right.
Prairie Wife and Seals.
I know he keeps on trying to get me to change the name, but I think we've got too much branding into it to
absolutely.
do that. So today's topic is how do you handle money in your house? Yours, mine, ours. What do you do? So I do not know the answer to any of what you guys do. So let's kick off with that. Roger, what do you do in your house? Yours, mine, ours, separate?
Well, you have to have money to begin with for
The-
that to
Touche.
be an issue.
Touche,
And
touche.
I work here, so
Ooh. Dissension in the ranks.
no, actually, no. It's all ours. You know,
Joint checking account and saving account.
Yeah, it's that's really never been much of an issue, unless she was saving for something, and she said, "Okay, I'm setting this aside. We're buying a new dining table that I want. Whatever." Other than that, nah, it's all merged, which is why when they spend, when they go nuts for me at Christmas, it's sort of bittersweet because it's all my money. Yeah, I mean,
You're buying your own
guys,
presents,
thank
really.
you guys for being so generous. Yeah. But no, we don't worry about who brought it in.
Yeah. Okay. Bob, what about you?
It's always a discussion. I think more about the future as opposed to what goes on right now.
But do you guys have shared checking and savings or separate, or how do you roll?
We have both.
So what does that mean?
Separate. Well, she has a separate account. There's a joint account. There's a savings and account.
Yep. Okay.
And most of the bread comes in through the infamous Town Square Eagle. And and then you parcel it out. She has a very good financial sense about her, by the way. I think
My husband would not say that about me.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But she rightfully so is always concerned about savings and things like that. And I'm not a saver, never have been.
Oh, that's
And,
interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm not a saver.
It's separate in our house. We have. My husband was the sole breadwinner
Yep.
for the last decade, so we had joint. Everything was just one, and I pay all the bills. and keep track of that, but he has the big financial picture in mind of what our goals are, what are we paying off next, and everything like that. But then when I started blogging and it started making an income, I started a second account for that. And that's the same now with the radio shows. So I call that, the blogging account. Excuse me, the blogging account.
About 100 a month in the blogging account so far.
I know more than that, sir. More than that.
Well, congratulations.
But that's my fun money.
Sure.
So I use it to pay for the things that come up with the blog, like, you had your GoDaddy account and all that stuff. But then that's also my fun money. So when I went and got skis, I take money out of that, and I don't have to feel guilty that I'm taking from the grocery money. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Not that my husband would ever say, no, you can't spend money on clothes, but he can't be like, how much was that shirt? When I'm like, oh, it was blogging money.
Sure.
So it's my guilt-free spending money is what I call. But really, I still don't hide anything from him that I spend with it. He's still very aware. And something I thought was interesting, so of course our regular listeners know that I have pages of notes in front of me. And one of the first people I went to research if it's recommended financially to have separate or joint accounts was Dave Ramsey. So Roger, what do you think Dave Ramsey said? Separate or joint better?
Yeah, I'm guessing it would say separate. I don't know why.
Yeah, I would think separate.
Yeah, no, not at all. He is,
right.
yes, he says one checking account in your marriage forces you to cooperate, forces you to communicate, and forces you to be of one mind. And then I got lost for half an hour reading his comments. Here's something else he said. Marriage counselors often use a budget to force people to communicate about life's most important things that they were ignoring before. It is vital in a marriage for you to learn to work together, set goals together, deal with your fears and challenges together, not just have a roommate that you happen to sleep with. And I thought it was fascinating because to me, the checking account is just a money issue, but he is saying it's not just money, that it's really about, do you have the same goals? Do you have the same priorities? And to me, that was fascinating because then that makes sense about why money causes so many divorces or people list that arguments over that, because actually you're really not arguing over money. You're arguing over what do you guys think? Minds blown? Are your minds blown right now?
No, absolutely.
No, it makes sense.
I had this one little piece that echoes what you just said. It says arguments about money hamper, obviously, many marriages. In fact, couples fight about money twice as much as they fight about sex, according to Money Magazine.
I believe that.
Frank, is that you?
My Swiss bank accounts are good. They're secrets, so don't tell anybody about it.
Frank's arguing with his buddy all the time about sex. All the time, so.
Mum's the way.
But that was from Money Magazine. And the actual, and the challenges can actually start even before you say, I do.
Yeah, so that was something that Dave Ramsey talked about because people were saying, okay, when we're engaged, is that when you go and you start joining everything together? And he said no. He said wait until you are actually married, signed on the dotted line, because once again, I agree with this. If you do end up breaking off the engagement or at the last minute, imagine how yucky that's going to be.
Yeah.
Trying to do that. And so this was something I got lost on the Dave Ramsey. So this is something he said. I will tell you anecdotally, I haven't marked it down and I haven't actually kept up with it in research, but over the years of 20 years of financial counseling, when I have a spouse who's demanding separate accounts, a disturbing number of times I discover an affair because they're planning to leave. So this isn't starting with separate accounts. This is you've been joint accounts and all of a sudden your spouse says, I think we need to do it separately. I want my own. Sweetheart, I promise you that's not why I have the blog account.
Right. I just want to buy this rifle.
Well, when it's a guy, they buy the sports car. Then you know.
Not if it's my husband. It is about the arsenal for the zombie apocalypse. This is really important.
Well, I'm talking about the impending affair.
Yeah, you're right. The
Yeah.
midlife crisis affair, separate joint, separate accounts and all that. But I thought that was really interesting. And of course, as soon as I read it, I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you have shared everything and all of a sudden your spouse is, which I apologize now if people are breaking into a cold sweat listening, listening to that. So,
no, honey, I really want a vet because I just like cars.
We're going to be getting some nasty emails here about that one. So here are some pros and cons according to...
Before you go to the
Yep.
pros and cons,
Yep.
did you come to your marriage completely debt-free, or were you?
Oh God.
No. So I had the student loan debt because I put myself through college,
Right.
100%. So I had, but of course that's the
Well,
University
you
of
and Uncle Sam did.
yeah, that's the University of Wyoming loan debt, which is nothing compared to the rest of the world.
Surely.
I
Yeah.
would just a little plug there for UW. Even out of state tuition was a quarter of what it would have cost me at the University of Wisconsin-Madison to go there. Which
So
is,
did you discuss the debt with your beau?
well, so he definitely
it a
knew about
surprise? Was it a little
so he
surprise?
knew about the college debt for sure. I will say about a month into our marriage when he discovered I had 5 different credit cards. I wouldn't say it was a come to Jesus moment because
Close.
I was just very quiet while he cut all of them up in front of me.
Oh, did he?
He's probably like, "You're making me look terrible. I'm going to get yelled at for this." But like I said, I am not. I'm with you, Bob. We have one life to live. Let's spend that money. You know, the joy that comes from a new pair of shoes. I am not known for saving. I'm not known for the big fiscal financial picture. And so my husband definitely, that first year of marriage, there was a lot of re-education, shall we say, about that, which I would still say he's more of the saver worrier, but let's face it, like he's providing for a family of 7. So
Well,
I can't
yeah.
blame him for
Absolutely.
Honey, what's this letter from Neiman's all about?
Oh no. He hears I'm at Target when he calls and he breaks into a cold sweat. We're not. But yeah, so he was okay with the college debt. But yeah, the credit card debt is something that
Nothing else.
is unacceptable.
Were you debt-free, Raj, when you married your?
Oh
bride?
no.
So she
No.
knew. She knew you were up to your ankles.
Yeah, you know what? I take it back. I pretty much was.
Were you really?
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
good
Well,
for
I've
you.
been single for a little while, and had a.
How old were you when you got married? That might make a difference. I was only 22.
I was older. She was 20. Well, there was a starter marriage in there, and no, I was about 32, and she was 27.
So that would make sense that you were more debt free than me as a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank, were you
sorry.
debt-free when you
I was broke the day I was born. I've had debt forever.
And look at you now with Swiss bank accounts.
Well, wink, wink. Wink, 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 wink.
What about
wink,
you,
wink.
Bob?
Did Scotty go? I was going to ask Scotty. Did Scotty go to? Did he have tuition free? Did he?
Oh
have
no,
scholarships, Scotty?
no! Dad paid part of his tuition. Then loans were the other part of his tuition.
Yeah.
Your dad or
No, mine.
You,
Me.
you,
Him.
the dad.
Yeah,
Okay.
him and
Dad.
His
dad.
real dad. Yeah, we wrote him a real check for about $5,000 for the
His
last
birth
time.
father. Yeah.
Yeah, for the last year of school. You know, part of that is like, you know what? Once you run, you age out of Hathaway.
Yeah, that's true. You do.
Yeah.
So
Oh, at what age do you age? suddenly that's a
Speaking
question.
of
I
cold
have,
sweat.
it's coming, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
I came. No, I came with debt. I had debt. And
School debt or life
Well-
debt or both.
Well, no school debt whatsoever. But I had very quickly my children's school debt. Okay.
You're still paying, aren't you?
Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
Well, when Bob and I went to school, it was pretty cheap.
Yeah, it was very inexpensive. It was a box of pencils and a lunchbox, and you're away. You
That's
went away.
it, yeah.
For college.
But then I had some business ventures too that did not do like I had planned them to do, and that always affects your.
I've been there.
your
Yeah,
spending,
sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Roger, you've invested in radio before too,
Yes.
so you know what I'm.
Oh,
talking
yes.
about. So those things went awry, and that was a very disappointing thing. If that had gone the way it should have been, then you would have been. Not
Do you feel like
debt-free.
that was any kind of a deal breaker or a stress on your marriage at all?
I think it continues to be on occasion,
Oh.
especially when you're talking about retirements and
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And 401ks
Yeah.
and everything else.
I've
And-
briefly heard those words before from my husband. I don't know.
And your partner's concern is real, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but there's not a thing you can do about it, except continue to, pedal.
So
and
do you
hope you
think
do it.
that there is something to be said for what Dave Ramsey says about how when you have the joint accounts, it forces you to look at that big picture more often and more frequently?
I think it does. I think it should.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, know. But my bride will
Because
tell
that's
you.
the only money.
Yeah.
That's all you got.
Yeah, yeah.
But my bride would tell you we don't communicate enough about it. I'm sure she would say that.
Especially because, as you said, she's the saver and you're the spender.
Well, she's not necessarily a saver per se, but she has common sense and I don't. That's what it is.
Bob, you and I are two peas in the same pod. We should not go on a shopping spree together.
I'll get a call from Karen, but Karen is a wonderful cook, and there are no small shopping trips to the grocery store. Every trip to the grocery store is like to fill the pantry, and she'll call and say, "How are we doing? We okay?" Because I'm at the store.
Good for her. Yeah, good for her for checking. I never check.
I said, "You're okay for blah blah amount," So try to hold it there.
That actually, I think, is a really valid point. A lot of so we had a comment. And I related to this one, and I'm going to murder her name because I have no idea how to say it. Maija, M-A-I-J-A. She said, he makes the money while I stay home with 5 kids. I plan the budget and pay the bills, but we make decisions together about spending on the big stuff. We share all accounts, less hassle than trying to track multiple accounts. So that's how my husband and I pretty much live. But he was getting frustrated because he would see the bill from Sam's Club coming at $360 every 2 weeks. I go to Sam's Club every 2 weeks. Our grocery bill is $360. Every once in a while there's toilet paper and all that. And he was having a heart attack over it because that's a lot of money every single month on food for our family. So I said, come with me one time. And once he saw that legitimately that is what it was and that's what we needed to budget for, it was eye-opening for him. Same thing with back to school clothes. He was freaking out. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we just dropped this much money in September before school starts. Yeah. So next time I went and put the kids up another clothing size, I had him come with, and we went to Kmart. Like, it's not like I'm going to Macy's.
Yeah,
we
Ralph
went to
Lauren.
Kmart. I'm telling you guys, Kmart is where you should get shoes. I'm just throwing that out there. Shoes for the kids, so cheap at Kmart. So anyway, we went to Kmart, and of course, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the school supplies and all of that. And he was like, okay. So just little advice out there. If you aren't believing or liking the bills or feeling like that number's off, go with your spouse and go to the grocery store. Yeah, go to the grocery store. Do the back to school shopping, because that was one of the best things I ever did, because for 2 years I haven't heard a word from him when it's back to school time, because he knows I am being frugal. It just is what it is. I lied when I said it's cheap to raise 5 kids.
And that's an interesting fact, too, because a lot of times with household incomes and so forth, the person that is not privy to the finances,
or paying it out every month.
And I say, well, how come you're not putting that money away? Well, because I had to pay this bill, you say. Well, what do you mean? And then you have to go through the entire thing. And the lights don't work. Guess what? The average U.S. household credit card debt is over $15,000. Okay. Yeah. The average mortgage debt is about $150,000.
I believe that.
Student loan debt just over $30,000. So how do households make it?
Well, and they say just a general statistic is I can't remember the exact percentage, but an astounding percent of American families are only 2 paychecks away from poverty.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I believe that, because there was definitely a time when we were paycheck to paycheck. Who do we pay on the 21st? Who can we get away with not paying until the 30th? And all of that. And it just, like you said, Bob, how do you do it?
It's crazy.
And of course people are fighting about it. So something I thought was pertinent is I wanted to look at the pros and cons of joint checking accounts and separate checking accounts. And I got that Dave Ramsey said, as far as marriage and conversation and goals, it's good to have joint, to have joint. So money.usnews.com said the 3 pros to joint checking accounts is it promotes trust, it offers a clear financial picture, and money's never out of reach. Because you have twice as much when you pool it together. So separate checking accounts promotes autonomy. You allow each person to still have independence. There's less ammunition for money battles. And something I thought was interesting is they said that the money can't be touched by anyone else. So what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. And I feel like that would be confusing, honestly. There's Cheryl said, We have his, hers, and ours. Yes, 3 separate accounts. We add up our monthly expenses, divide it by what each one of us makes. My husband makes more than me, so he pays more. We get paid and put part of the budget into account that's household, and the rest we do what we want. When we go to the store for groceries, we split the bill in half, no matter who puts what in the cart. When we he'll say, "Hey, let's go out for dinner," and he'll pay, and if I say it, I'll pay. 20 years of marriage and never had an argument about money.
Whoa.
First of all,
They belong in the Smithsonian.
I feel like, first of all, Cheryl, good for you that you found what works, but it was utterly exhausting for me to look at that. And then at the end, when I read 20 years of marriage, because in my mind, I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, this is working for the first 2 years. And then all of a sudden you realize this has been working for Miss Cheryl for 20 years. Like, good for them. But when you go to the grocery store, you split. So what happens if just she goes to the grocery store?
Yeah.
Does he then give her the cash later for it?
Probably she pays that for that one, probably.
You think so?
Yeah, probably.
Cheryl, you're going to need to comment and let us know because inquiring minds want to know. But does that sound utterly exhausting to anyone else?
Does to me.
That's a lot, yeah. That's
My
a lot to
mother-
keep track of.
I've told this story on the air before when it comes to, paying bills. I remember listening to her on the telephone call, and a gentleman was dunning her for monies. Okay, didn't pay the bill. And she explained it this way. She said, listen, Mr. Johnson, every month, okay, I take all the bills and I put them in a pot, okay? Okay? And then every month I pull one out and I pay it, okay? And you're on my ass right now, and I'm not putting your name in the pot this month.
Oh, no. Did the lights go out then, or? Oh, my goodness.
There you go.
I just, like I said, good for Cheryl that she found what works, and they really have thought about making it fair. He makes more, so statistically he pays more. 20 years of marriage, and it's working for her. Yeah, it's working for her. So according to moneycrashers.com, if you are going to have separate accounts and make it fair, you have to A, sit down together, B, divvy up expenses, which we were talking with a gentleman here that works at the office before the show, and he said they have separate, and that's what they do. He has the bills he's responsible for. She has the ones that she's responsible for. It also says you need to get new cards. So you have to, when you open your checking accounts, get brand new cards. But I thought this was interesting. Keep both accounts available to both people. So according to moneycrashers.com, you need to have separate accounts, but the other person should still be on your separate account.
Can get to it.
Which I thought that was interesting. And then save the remaining balances. So I don't know what that means. If you save together, you do have a joint savings account. I think that's probably what that means.
What happens if the one of the parties lose a job?
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. Has that ever happened to you, Ron? They said, I'm sorry, you're out of work.
Bob, has that ever happened to you? Gosh.
Hold on, let me get a box of Kleenex, Roger. Do you need that? Was a little.
No, we've both been around
sensitive.
Since dinosaurs ruled the earth. So, yeah, it's going to, once or twice it's happened.
Yeah. That's a whole new set of circumstances.
Well, indeed it is. The difficulty of this is also exacerbated sometimes by where you live, how expensive the place you live in is.
And do you need to downgrade? Do you need to sell a vehicle?
Yeah. And for folks that grew up here and have lived here all their lives, they may not realize this is kind of a pricey place to live. It's not New York and L.A. pricey, but
certainly
this is more pricey than a lot of other areas of the country. That was a bit of a shock for me.
Do you really think it is?
Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
Our food prices are.
Your housing prices are very high.
I just feel like compared to Milwaukee, where I grew up in, this is so. And I guess that's why I feel like Wyoming is so affordable for raising a family.
No. The house we're building right now would be maybe 2/3 of what it is, say down south. So there are parts of the country that are much cheaper, but you adjust. You just have to adjust.
Yeah.
But it stretches you just a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, and what I think is, so we've never had the loss of a job, but so when we first were married, we both had full-time jobs. And then with the birth of our first child, my son, I went to working part-time. And he was still full-time. So we have had that whole downgrade to all of a sudden half the salary, and that was stressful. I will not lie. That was because we also added a kid to it. So how we dealt with it is we actually sold my husband's motorcycle to pay for the baby.
Oh, well.
And then when we had our second child and I went to staying home full time, we sold his Jeep
He's my hero.
to pay for the baby.
What a guy.
But the fourth child.
So by the time we had the
Running out of
third
stuff to
kid,
sell.
the third kid was the first one we didn't have to sell anything to pay for, and I cannot lie, that was a big victory. That was we have made it. But that's just what you do, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
God, he had this custom Honda Shadow with like this spray painted tank with blue ghost flames on it, and I'm sure he's shedding a tear right now listening to this and remembering. And then I don't even remember what year his Jeep was, but it was one where everyone stopped him when he was in it and was like, "Oh man," it was one of those super cool older ones.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's what you
CJ.
do, right? I mean,
Sure.
that's what you do.
So the third child, you did not have to sell it.
No, we were financially comfortable enough that third, fourth, and fifth kid, we did not have to sell anything.
Plus, he was running out of vehicles to sell now, at that point.
Well, that's true. We didn't have anything else to sell. But I tell you what, and I.
One of us is walking if we don't, yeah.
So kudos.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Hold on, my husband texted me just now. I have to read this. He says, "That's what I do. ... You haven't sold anything." But what am I gonna sell? No one's gonna. I mean, I don't have anything.
You got a
Right?
nice diamond. Nice.
My wedding ring.
Yeah,
he probably
sure.
would be mad if I showed up without that.
I'm sure. Of that.
Yeah, he would, that's funny. Poor guy. He's a good guy. The stuff he puts up with. No wonder he says no more kids, huh?
When he buys a rifle, where's that budget come from? He's
That
a
comes
hunter.
from our joint. He doesn't ask me either for
Oh,
it
he
if he can. No. Mm-mm.
How much does a rifle cost?
Oh, it depends. Are you
Right, yeah,
buying
it depends on
an
the gun.
AR-15 or are we buying a
I
22
see.
for the kid? I would say there are some guns I have known that have been purchased for upwards of $1,000 for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. But then I'm told when I harumph or raise an eyebrow, I'm told this is an investment. And if we ever need money, I can sell it
Excuse me. Yeah.
for money. Now, I have yet to see that happen.
That's the same with your Jaguar, is it not? Right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's it. Yeah,
No.
yeah. It's a depreciating investment, unfortunately. Yeah.
So you guys all have older kids. So let me and I know we have to start winding down here because our time's up. So Bob, throw something at me if we need to stop. But
No, you're doing fine.
what do you think about our college idea? Do you think that's feasible? I feel like
I think
the
it's very-
reimbursement
I
upon
think it's-
graduation.
I think it's very sensible. I really do. Both of my boys, the youngest, Tyler, didn't like college all that much, but
Yeah.
Josh spent about 15 years in his freshman year.
Yeah.
So not really. No, he took a while, and we went to the FAFSA loan board and just
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah,
sign,
that's what
sign,
I did,
sign,
yeah,
sign,
yeah.
sign. And that debt has just ballooned. Over the
So
years.
one of the reasons why we decide not to pay for college is because in my experience, when I went to college, my friends whose parents paid for their college, their freshman year was a waste. They dinked around. They didn't go to class. They weren't
Well,
focused.
it's your first year of freedom,
cha-
and you tend to fart around a lot.
Well,
Let's
so
face
here's the
it.
deal. I didn't. Because I wanted to get in and out in 4 years
Oh,
because
well.
I was paying for it. So
We had the draft when I was in college, so no, I couldn't afford to either. No.
But I think that I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said for, and also of course there's the exception to the rule. Children that are focused, that their parents pay for their entire college education. It's not a waste. They get good grades. I mean, but I really feel like I have seen that the people that put themselves through college, whether it's through the work program or saving money, really do it quickly and with better grades. What do you guys think? What have you seen with your kids?
Well, I think you're exactly right. As far as my two boys are concerned, Josh finally did get out of school,
Congratulations.
and he's
both of
now
you.
he's still borrowing money. No, he's not.
Oh, they'll borrow money forever.
Well, that's true. By the way, Raj, I could use about 500.
Oh, yeah, right.